Drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. Like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty.
Much of Psalms, I think we are up at Psalm 62,
61,
62 today, or 63 today.
Right.
So there have been 63 to about 40 something before. And we covered Jeremiah and a little bit of Daniel, because we're at the point in Jeremiah's story where the exile happened. So that's why we ended up in Daniel, and we'll probably end up in Jeremiah again in a little bit. So as we talk, that's the context in which our conversation is coming from. I'm going to take Al since he's the guest, and then I'm going to move on to Kendrick.
I kind of got the same thing like what Shawnice and Din said. It was almost like an instruction book, a guideline for this is how you kind of put aside all the distractions, the stuff that don't mean anything, the things that are going to last. You know, the Bible always talks about, you know, only what you do for Christ will last. Mm-hmm. But it was, to me, it was very practical. It was very literal, and there was very little ambiguity in what it is we need to do in terms of our character.
Okay.
To get ready, you know.
All right.
There's nothing left to say about Peter. Like everything.
I didn't ask you about Peter.
No, that's what I'm saying. No, but I was like, I enjoyed reading Peter, and everybody pretty much summed up like all the words that were mentioned. Like,
kill the music.
We killed him.
Okay, go ahead.
So the main word that I put over and over again was practical.
Okay.
And there was something that I was reading that was it was in 2 Peter 1, you know, it talks about his divine power has given us everything we need for godly life, and it kind of goes through that. And then it said, for this very reason, make every effort to add to your faith goodness, and to goodness knowledge, and to knowledge self-control perseverance, and to perseverance godliness, and to godliness mutual affection, and mutual affection love. And I was wondering if that's like the order in which we are to kind of grow in Christ, because it was saying like add to this, add to this, add to this, and as it goes on it says then increase in all of these things. And only then will it keep you from being ineffective and unproductive in your knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. So that was something that was interesting, that was kind of plaguing me all week, because I was stuck on goodness. I was like, how do you I can't get the rest of this until...
So what do you guys think? Is it in order, or does it matter?
I think it is in order.
Okay.
It makes sense. Each step seems a little harder than the other step, and then we're ending in love, which we all know is probably the hardest thing to really do based on the Bible standards, that is. You're starting with yourself, with your faith, then you increase your knowledge, you get to know a little more, then you put that knowledge into practice, which leads you to self-control. You steadfast, and then you godliness, and then you can show affection to others. You kind of understand people a little bit, and then you get to love. It makes sense.
Okay.
And I feel like this is a good breakdown, because you hear love one another, love your brother, love your enemy.
But how do you get?
How do I get there? Exactly. So this is a good example of, okay, if I take it step by step, let's not stop at self-control. I still got a little ways to go.
And that's the impressive part of Peter. Like Paul would have just been said, like, in my opinion, I think you should do this. Where Peter, like, he walks you down. He's walking you down. Just walk with me.
I'm hearing a lot of affection.
Love Pedro.
a lot of affection.
That's what he said?
A lot of affection for Peter.
I don't know. For me, I think if we try to, I don't think it's literal in terms of this is how you do this, this is how you do it. But more so, cleanse yourself, as Peter is saying. And I think these traits will develop once you have a relationship with God. Because if we, based on how I'm interpreting it, as you guys explain it, is it, you do this one, this one, this one. It's like if you keep a checklist, you might get stuck on one and you might meditate on that for years to come. when in reality you're not responsible for your salvation. Or well, let me clarify that you're not responsible for if you go to heaven or not, because look at the thief on the cross.
Mm-hmm.
Did he achieve any of these things?
All at once.
Right. All exactly. All he said is, listen, if you are who you are, remember me.
Mm-hmm.
Except perseverance, because he died.
Very
Yes,
valid.
go
Right.
ahead.
So, yeah, for me, I don't think it's so much literally following, verbatim, but more so connect with the source who's perfect in all these things, and you in return will just.
To try and add all of them, maybe more in a circle rather than in a line.
Sure.
Right.
And that makes sense.
I think it's even simpler than that. I think he's saying more or less, don't stop. Sometimes we want to get to a point where, yes, I finished my work, I'm good.
Right.
And he's saying don't stop. Because when you stop and you say I'm good, then you'll get distracted. You'll get distracted.
Right.
And so keep going. Keep going. Keep improving.
And he says that. He says, for if you possess these qualities in increasing measure.
Yes, increasing. So it's saying once you've gotten all this list, because some people are really good with lists. They want their list, they want to get their to-do list done, and they're like, yes. And it says, okay, you've got it done. Now increase, get better at all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so your work never stops. Your relationship with God needs to continue to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you're online and you're looking and you'd like to join in the conversation, if you had your own thoughts from the reading, feel free to call in. The number is 914-215-5907. That's 914-205-5907. Or we're following the chat log, so if you had anything you wanted to share, we can pick it up through there. Is there anything this week that you guys wrestled with?
Okay, you want to hear what I wrestled with? Because
Yes.
I typically don't wrestle with much.
Okay.
Now, this wasn't this week. This was within the last couple of weeks when we were in Mark 11.
Okay.
And I find in Mark 11 that people just get so excited about when Jesus went in and started turning over tables in the temple. And it's just like, yes, righteous indignation. But we missed this little story about the withered fig tree. And you hear sometimes pastors preach on the fig tree and just bear fruit. Everybody bear fruit. But when I read this, I had to study for it. And I read it over and over again. And if you know me, I have so many Bibles in my house. I pulled out so many Bibles to read it and read it and read it in different versions.
Wouldn't it have been easier to just go online and do it?
No, because I wanted to see it for myself. I wanted to see it for myself.
You can't see it for yourself?
I wanted to see it for
Bible gives
myself.
like that feel
Because
of
She wants to feel the pages turn.
I would-
Snowden's probably changing the words.
And so it says in Mark 11, verse 12. The next day, as they were leaving Bethany, Jesus was hungry. Seeing in the distance a fig tree in leaf, he went to find out if it had any fruit. When he reached it, he found nothing but leaves, because it was not the season for figs. Then he said to the tree, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again." And the disciples heard him say it. So now we skip all the way over to verse 20.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're going to skip past the yes.
Yeah. Okay.
In the morning, as they went along, they saw the fig tree withered from the roots. Withered from the roots. Peter remembered and said to Jesus, "Rabbi, look, the fig tree you cursed has withered." "Have faith in God," Jesus answered. "I tell you the truth. If anyone says to this mountain, 'Go throw yourself into the sea,' and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will happen, it will be done for him." I want to stop there because when you start at 22, people usually start an entire new story from 22 and go on, and that's like this awesome faith. But what got me and stirred me up was this tree that was not bearing fruit. And how many pastors I heard say, you have to bear fruit, you have to bear fruit. But if you look carefully, it said, he reached it, he found nothing but leaves, because it was not the season for figs. So if you pay attention to that, Jesus walks up to this tree. It's not time for it to bear fruit. It's not time. It admits, this is not the season for figs. But Jesus saw that it had leaves from far off. And he walked up to it to see if it had fruit. And it did not. And so he cursed it. And then everything else happened the rest of the day. And we see confirmation that his curse on the tree actually came to pass. That it was withered. Not the leaves fell off. Oh, fall is beautiful. Autumn is beautiful. But that it was withered from the roots. And so, I feel like for us, that actually gave me this heart palpitations. Because we tell each other, oh, if it's not your season, it's not the season for that, then don't worry. This is not your season. That's not your season. But it says if God is coming and expecting fruit from you, it doesn't matter what you're going through. It doesn't matter where you are. If he's expecting this from you, you're supposed to have it.
Now, does anybody know how the fig works? How the fig tree works?
I don't eat figs.
Go ahead.
They come in like a breaded thing, right? In
Go
bags.
ahead. Go ahead.
That's not breadfruit.
The reason I was asking is another key to this is that the tree was in leaf. I don't know much about figs, and maybe I need to do research to clarify this, but it would appear that being in leaf means that there's supposed to be fruit.
So I'm gonna tell you something interesting. So there's a lady I help. We go cut grass. The next door neighbor, his name is Vince. I don't know, Vince, you're not watching tonight, but hello anyway. Vince has fig trees, and usually fig trees, I mean the figs get very, 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 very big. And this year, there's a lot of leaves and no figs. A lot of leaves and no figs. I just did that because pastors repeat themselves.
All right, Pastor Warren.
But there are a lot of leaves and no figs. And I was asking, I was like, did you get anything? I was like, there's no figs on here. Did you get anything? He was like, no, the whole year, nothing on the tree. And it was a smaller tree that just had like little bitty figs, but they've been little bitty the entire year. They haven't grown. And I was like, those have been small for the past 3 or 4 months. He was like, I know. He's like, they won't get any bigger. And I wanted to kind of get into it, but we got into another conversation. But when you were saying that, I was like, no, there are figs. Yeah, they're supposed to have fruit.
When they're in leaf. So but the tree was misrepresenting itself. Yeah. That's my understanding of what was happening here.
No, but listen.
But I have to confirm.
And that's the thing too. If we say that we're fruitful, it shouldn't matter what season it is. Because it said it's out of season. But if it had listen, he just said the tree is misrepresenting itself. But if the tree has leaves, but it's still not the season, then how could it be misrepresenting itself unless the leaves are sometimes a representation of you saying, hey, I'm a fig tree and I have fruit.
Sometimes, but they're fruit trees that when you grow, they'll have leaves in the proper season, but it's going to take them 4 or 5 years before they actually bear fruit.
Yes.
Does all the leaves come before the fruit?
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to be that girl, but I'm going to be that girl.
No, be that girl, because this is,
Well, all right, so the leaves are there. Fine, folks. It doesn't mean the fruit's not coming.
Especially since it's not the season.
And that's what I'm saying.
Was he just being irrational?
He is.
First of all, so you're saying Jesus was irrational?
No, what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is, Jesus has the right
to be irrational,
to expect us, even when the rest of the world. Because remember, okay, let's go back a little farther. Mm-hmm. Seasons are only in place because of what? Sin. Let me just give you the answer, because every time I do that, it's just like I don't know what answer is.
That wasn't one of the.
No. Yeah, Adam and Eve didn't have winter, spring, summer, fall.
Not everybody
They
has
had
winter,
mist.
spring, summer, and
They
fall
had
either.
missed. Exactly. And where the fig tree was, it shouldn't have mattered either, because he was expecting it to have figs. So if someone says, oh, it's not in season, Jesus is saying, no, that shouldn't matter. I was expecting this tree to be fruitful. I was expecting this tree to be fruitful. Now, if everyone else's opinion counted, then Jesus would have been like, oh yeah, it's not the season. All right. But this time he was upset because he was hungry, and he expected, despite what everyone else thought, despite what sin brought about there being season and non-season. I'm just, and we can discuss this, because I'm not trying to be right for this one. Typically, I'm trying to be right about something. But I just want you to see how we skip over. We skip over.
Jesus was being irrational. The man hungry. He went up to the tree. No fruit. You know what is true? Dead. And that's what happened.
And that's what I'm saying. And what I'm saying is that our reality? Is it our reality that no matter what anyone else says, somebody says, you know what? It's okay, baby. You're broke. You don't need to do that ministry. It's going to cost a lot of money. Your wife just had a baby. No. Take a minute for yourself. It's not your season. But if Jesus expects you to push that ministry through, he is going to deal with you individually. He didn't talk about any other trees. He talks about that specific tree. And it was so noticeable that tree was withered, that when they were walking by the next day, they were like, Rabbi, Jesus, look, you see what happened to that tree? It was that noticeable that the tree was dead.
But dead because he cursed it.
Because he cursed it.
Yeah.
He cursed it. And I'm saying, we can say whether he's rational or irrational, but the truth still stands for this situation. Because I'm not going to say all.
I'm going to lean a little bit over here and say, in the parable of the talents, the guy who hid his talent said, I know you are a harsh master, reaping where you have not sown. That's why I kept this one and I didn't do anything with it. Because, you're kind of unreasonable.
And I didn't want to lose it.
So is that the same kind of thing?
I'm not saying
I'm not going as far to say that Christ was being irrational.
Okay.
I just think he was hungry.
He was
And
upset.
he was making a point.
I hear Aaron saying something.
I think it was an object lesson.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm saying.
I don't think
Yeah.
the tree was the object of the whole thing.
Right.
We are. That's why I gave
it was a lesson
that.
to us. I'm not sure if I agree with the fruit part, because like you said, the fruit might have been an issue, but I think it was the misrepresentation, because there were two things distinct in that text: the leaves on the tree, and the fact that it was not in season. Jesus went to that tree. Why?
To see if it had fruit.
Because he saw leaves. So it seems like the lesson is, when we give the appearance or give the facade as if
We are in season.
right,
We have fruit.
or that we have fruit,
That we
well,
have
we
fruit.
don't.
Because we're not ready. Because we're not ready.
It could be that we're not
No,
ready.
it's not that we're
but-
not ready. We're
no,
shining.
no, but I mean, if you go-
the point isn't the fruit. The point is
Yes.
what we project.
You're inviting people
Right.
to come look at
Right.
this as if it's right. It's right.
It's like I think we heard a sermon sometime ago that talked about. This was profound for me, because I never understood this when the Bible talks about taking the Lord's name in vain. It's not when you grow up, your parents used to tell you, don't take the Lord's name in vain. Don't say God's name incorrectly. But what it means is if you call yourself Christian, you have to represent that. So this can apply to that in a sense, in that if you call yourself Christian, if you advertise to yourself, people that you're Christian, but you're not bearing that true fruit, you're not bearing any fruit,
Yes.
then I think that's what Christ is chastising. So what he's warning against.
But considering that it wasn't just that it wasn't bearing fruit because it was supposed to be bearing fruit. It wasn't supposed to be bearing fruit anyway, because it wasn't the season for figs.
But that it gave the appearance that it should. That
But
it was.
why did Jesus go? Like, Jesus knows that it's not the
That's
season.
why I
But that's the point. It wasn't. That wasn't the point.
I agree, with Al, because I was going in my mind like, well, it's not so much about the tree and the fruit. While it's an example or an example saying, hey, look at this. I think I found something that clarified it for me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And this is, hold on. The Bible commentary.
Mhm.
It says, the Lord was hungry. He presented a people hungering for fruit that they ought to have had, but did not receive from an apparently flourishing fig tree. The spiritual necessities were not supplied to satisfy the people whom Christ, had pledged his life to save by his grace and righteousness. When the Lord is with people who have knowledge and advantages in spiritual enlightenment, and when they impart that which they have received from God, they are fruit-bearing branches.
But that's contrary to what we're saying. Like
But-
we're saying that there's this tree or this person who is giving off the appearance of having fruit, but doesn't have any fruit because it's not
the season.
it's not the season for him or her to bear fruit. The commentary is saying that you're giving off the appearance. I mean, people may come to you for things, for knowledge, for fruit, and you can't give them because you act like or you look like this, but you don't have anything to give.
Right.
Those are two totally different thoughts.
Well, the in season and out of season, I think, can be interpreted kind of different ways. Because the reason a tree, like your neighbor's tree, what Maryland has had a lower than normal rainfall.
Yes, and that's what
That's what it's. So in taking it in a different way, the tree doesn't have fruit because it's not watered, it's not nourished.
But this
So
tree,
this
But
person,
this tree was
But this-
it was not in season.
It wasn't in season.
right? But we just talking semantics.
Okay.
Is it
So
semantics though?
No.
You can't pick semantics if it's in the Bible, unless Paul says it.
Then
But if we take the whole thing literally,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
if we take the whole thing literally, then it has to be about the tree and the fruit. But that's not what it's about.
Right.
But I think what it's trying to say is whether the tree isn't producing because it's not in season or it's because we're applying it to us. We can't just use the excuse that it's not that person's season. It's not my season.
Why not?
Because there can be other reasons why I'm not producing fruit. The
Yes,
reason I'm
there
not
could
producing
be.
fruit could be that
Yeah.
I'm not drinking. I'm
Yes,
not
but it
drinking
could,
of the
okay,
water.
but it could be. But
And that-
we're taking. But if we take what was here, and it says the fact that the tree is out of season, then taking that in context means that it's not my season. I'm not ready. It's not my time to produce fruit.
No.
But then that does make it seem irrational for Christ to use that example and curse that tree. Because if it genuinely is not my season,
Then you shouldn't have leaves.
No.
Then you shouldn't have
That's
leaves.
what I'm
Right.
saying. You shouldn't have leaves.
shouldn't have leaves.
Hold on.
Yes.
Before we take
It's
this in
genuinely
But if
not
I'm
my
entering
season.
my season, as we just said, the leaves
God doesn't
come
care.
before the
He does
fruit.
care. He cares about everybody.
Well,
I know, but the difference of this,
no,
we
we
need
take
more
this time
information
thing.
about the figs.
We say.
I looked it up.
You're saying figs. You're saying figs.
Someone call in or email
somebody
if you have any
gave
answers.
I'm on it.
somebody gave a note here.
Oh, they
Go ahead.
did.
They said Jesus went to the tree hungry. The leaves were saying it had fruit when it was not in season to do so. Yeah, that was a comment.
Okay.
But-
Okay. And the thing is, because remember, we can take different viewpoints on this, but in the end, the fact remains: a tree that was not in season
Put out
was
leaves.
cursed because
Put out leaves.
even though it had leaves, it did not bear fruit. And Jesus knew the season. He knew the season. But that did not matter. And what I'm trying to help us see is it did not matter. So even though sometimes we may have a good reason for why we are not bearing fruit, because some of you saying, oh, the fruit doesn't matter, it's not about the fruit. But the fruit does matter, because the fruit is what would feed and nourish, and he was hungry. And so no matter what we say about our excuses about the season, if it looks like we should be bearing fruit, and Jesus approaches us and we are not, all the excuses we give are worth nothing.
Even if they're valid.
even if they're valid, because not being in season is a very valid reason
It's the
not to
validest
bear
reason.
fruit.
But
So-
this happened to me. I'm going through.
So it's helpful not to even project leaves until I'm sure that the fruit is coming.
I'm
I
mourning.
think to me that's a
According to
lesson.
this
That's
thing,
why I
I'm
don't wear
mourning.
suits.
Sharika's giving us a
which is I found this very interesting that people. I am the dictionary. People don't just grow fig for the fruit. People admire the ornamental plant as well and the leaves.
Yes, people do.
So duh. What I'm saying is, there's something about the way the fig tree looks that makes it admirable.
Yeah.
So it's not. I'm wondering. You saw the pretty leaves. You assumed that this tree had to have fruit on it because it's calling you to it. You know, when you see a pretty thing, you're like, man, there must be more to it. There must be something else here, and I get to it.
Good
What?
from far, but far from good.
And there's nothing there, type of thing. But it doesn't mean that the tree is not bearing fruit. It's just not the fruit time. It's time for just the plants to shine. It seems people are growing it for two reasons. So I kind of agree with you saying that the tree is inviting, of course, and there's no fruit,
Substance to it.
no substance. But in the same breath, I do feel Jesus in his all-knowing behavior and knowing power knew that it wasn't. And there's a reason why it says it's not fig season. It's not the season for it. He, in a way, didn't walk up to it expecting the fruit. Like, back in those days, they were really into...
maybe he
the
thought he
fruits
got
of-
lucky.
No. They were
Went to
undermining his
find out
You ever
intelligence.
see a mango should be out of
It was I mean I can go with that.
No, I
But I see
mean...
what you guys are saying.
But what I'm saying is this. Back those days, they knew, like, it's like going to the island. You know when certain things are growing. You know when certain things aren't growing. Like, you're very in touch with nature. Jesus knew this wasn't fig season. Like, he knew that. So walking up to the tree expecting fruit, that's undermining his intelligence. He knew it wasn't going to be there.
Well, he didn't know
It
that
didn't
because
say that.
just
Okay,
the-
we're
the
putting
tree had
words in.
leaves.
We're putting words in, and we're going too far back when we're saying, is Jesus divine or is he...
No, I'm not saying... This
Because
has
it
nothing to do
says
with divinity. I'm
he
saying in
went to
general,
find
if I
out
live in that
if
area...
it had any fruit.
He went to
He
investigate.
went to find out.
But it says
So
it's not fig season.
it doesn't matter what we say. We have to look at what the Bible
That
says.
does
It says
matter, though.
He went to find out. If you're saying, he already knew it didn't have figs. He just wanted to
But
go
it
up there and make a
mentioned
big
that it's
point.
not its season.
But-
It's like I'm
but
going
it
up to the
says-
mango tree with no mango season.
It says, seeing in a distance a fig tree in leaf. Okay,
but
so he saw
knowing
in a
it's not
distance.
fig season.
He knew it's not, but he saw the fig tree in
I
leaf.
guess bear out the season.
Here's a challenge. I think for me, as much as I really I have my own interpretation. This whole fig and leaf and fruit thing is confusing the entire idea behind the whole fig tree thing. How do we apply that? So I think we need to put it in context. How do we apply that to what we human can interpret?
Yeah.
I don't think that's what we.
What does it look like? Because we're saying fig tree and fruit.
I have
People
this.
are watching and they're like, "What are you talking about? I'm not a fig expert. And I was a fig expert. No.
Well, it's, I mean,
How do I
Okay,
apply
let's
that?
apply to a
but
person.
it's
The
simple.
leaf and branches concept.
But it's leaf.
I think that's
And
what
I
it ties
think-
into.
I think that's the problem. I think we're trying to separate it all. And we say, no, it's not about fruit, it's not about leaves, but we're trying to separate it when we have to put it all together. When we put it all together, we see that there's many points. Okay, Jesus was hungry. He saw the fig tree in leaves. We can't say, okay, well, there was not leaves or not. And then it says he went to find out if it had any fruit. We can't say the fruit's not important, that's not the important thing, because it is important. They all tie in together. And then it says when he reached it, he found nothing but leaves. So there's the leaves again, showing us that he saw some people, they just like the leaves, it's ornamental, it's pretty, but that's not good enough for Jesus. And that's what I'm pointing out. I'm pointing out that sometimes we paint this picture. We have these pictures of God that we would put them in a box. And sometimes, because remember, after this, we saw him going to the temple and tossing stuff up, and no one says that he actually took a bench that someone was sitting on and moved it. We don't look at that. So we see that his whole day he was just like, I'm not playing with you people. That was his whole day. And then the next morning, they saw the tree, and they knew that he was not playing with them. But he was in a certain realm where leaves showed, but the fruit wasn't there, and there was a consequence.
But Shawnice,
there was a consequence.
But you mentioned every single part except the part that says it was too early in the season for
No, I
fruit.
mentioned that first.
No,
I
you
mentioned
said
that
Jesus
first.
went up to it. He went looking for it. He didn't get it. He cursed it and walked
No.
away. But it still wasn't fruit season.
Yes, you're right.
And that's the part that if we're going to put this to my life, modern times, this is where I'm struggling, for example. How do I explain this? Something is expected of me that I have not achieved yet, or it's not there yet, and I'm being cursed for it when it's not within my reach yet.
Exactly.
I can't understand that, because that's what's happening with the tree. The tree, it is not time for the fruit, so the tree is being cursed for something that is not in its reach yet. If we're going to take the story,
exactly why I think that's not the reason that you.
But that's what I'm saying. If we're going to look at it that way,
it's for putting forward the leaves. So even the leaves were out of season. So it's not just the fruit was out of season, but the leaves were out of season. So in fact, the tree had no right to put forward leaves. Just like any person who is portraying, say there's somebody who is studying or purporting to be a prophet or preacher or whatever. But really and truly, they have not studied, they have not prepared, they have not drunk and they go and purport to people that I can do this or come and hear me do. And when people go to it and they have nothing to say.
And I can accept that.
That's I think that's a lesson Christ is
part of it.
That's a lesson Christ is telling us. Don't put yourself up to be what you are not. Be who you are. In your season, you will be completely who you're supposed to be. Don't force yourself.
Don't waste my time.
Right.
Or waste
Don't waste people's time. Because it's like my father used to tell me when I was young, when you date a young lady, don't waste your time or her time. So you need to do your thing in your time.
And that I can accept.
That makes sense.
That makes sense to me. No leaves. It's either all or nothing. Either you put your leaves out there and you have fruit, or you don't have any leaves. Which would probably make sense why Jesus said, all right, you know what is true?
Because
since you're fake, I'm just gonna kill it all.
I'm gonna show you for who you really are.
Exactly.
You're fruitless, so I'm gonna make you genuinely fruitless permanently.
Wow.
That makes sense.
But not that that's what Christ wants to do to us. But I think he was giving a warning. He was showing how
important.
But he does want to do that to us.
Expectations.
But he does so because he speaks about being lukewarm. He speaks about wanting to pick a side.
But the thing, he gives us chances. He may find us putting forward fake leaves and not having fruit, but he will give us a chance to say, this is you, fix this. But with the tree, that was it for the tree. He won't do that to us.
The Father,
because it had leaves.
The Father himself has done that many a times.
Quite a few people.
There's no chance. It was, there goes that. The Father.
Hey, for me, this whole fig and leaf tree thing, I mean, it goes back to John 15 verse 5, where basically say, I'm the vine, you're the branches. Right? He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit, for without me he can do nothing. I tie the fig and the whole object lesson there to this verse. And that works for me, I get it like that way. But when I try to rationalize him being hungry and, curse the tree and start trying to understand.
But that's what the parable.
But here there's the hunger for me is a key point to what these people are saying, because if you are representing Christ and a hungry person comes up to you and is not able to get fed from you after you've purported yourself to be able to feed, that person suffers. That person goes away hungry and
may never come back seeking again. Because
which is why it's so important, if you're out of season
To stay older.
to stay out of season.
Well, not to stay out of season, but represent yourself.
Out of season?
Represent yourself as being out of
As
season.
being, yeah, walk around
But
bare.
but here's
No suit.
No suit,
here's a big question though.
no tie.
I just-
While I agree with that, who determines season? You?
Well, that's the thing.
Who determines season?
That's what I'm saying.
Who determines season? Because you might think that, hey, let's do this. I am in season.
But you,
Did God tell you that you're in season, or did one of the deacons tell you in season, or the elders say you're in season? How
You're
do
in
you
season
know
when you
you're in
have
season?
fruit.
but there are a lot
That's
of.
how you know when the fruit change season is that
So-
fruit.
So let me ask you a question then. So this
That's how you know there's the fruit, there's
This
the evidence.
Right. So
What is this?
No,
It's the same scenario you used earlier when you talked
That's not
about
right?
you're the bride.
We tell people
I am
they're in
and you're
season
the
all the
bride.
time. We tell
You
pastors
know-
they're called and we
you know
send
when
them
it's the-
somewhere.
When it's the season, when the
You're in season.
when the brain
Go.
tells you
Like
it's the
that's,
season.
that's
So if you're connected, you will know. That's how you know. Being
Right.
connected.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
back
That
to
is
John,
yes.
right. But again, I'm just trying to get, because you mentioned season, and if you don't still that season, if you don't know if you're in or you're out. And I mean, you hear all these preachers mention season. It's not your season. It's not your season. If you're not connected, how will you know when is your season?
You're always out of season. Technically, yes. If you're not connected, I'm always out of season.
well.
I think we buried this one.
No, but
I think so.
I got
I
another.
think so.
You know, I always got a
if you're
question.
not connected, you're dead anyway. So it has nothing to do. Like you're dead. You'll never be in season.
That's what you said.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, she
We
just-
was listening.
I was reading.
all right. So we'll close this one up.
Bam.
And anybody else wrestled this week?
Oh, I have some.
Okay.
Is this Peter? Yeah, this is Second Peter, I believe. Let's make sure. Not
Second Peter was pretty good.
I think you like all the Peter stuff, man. I think
Peter.
you like all the Peters. Peter 1 and 2.
I like Daniel this week too. I like Daniel.
Daniel's hard for me.
He was a pretty boy too. Like he was flawed. Like his apparently they were flawless.
Yeah, they were the prettiest of
The
the
prettiest of the pretty. Pretty Rickies. Praising God.
I'm done.
It's over.
2 Peter 2, verse
Second Peter 2.
20. I guess that's where the meat of it lies, but you probably should start earlier. This was something I wrestled with.
False teachings.
No.
No.
What?
It starts with, for if after they have escaped the defilements of the world through the knowledge of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, they are again entangled in them and overcome, the last state has become worse for them than the first. For it would have been better for them never to have known the way of righteousness,
Okay.
rather than after knowing it turn back from the holy commandment delivered to them. For what the true proverb says has happened to them, the dog has returned to its own vomit, and the sow, after washing herself, returns to wallow in her mire. And I was just like, whoa, dude, that one was like,
To what?
it was better to have
Oh,
not
it's like-
known the way of of righteous than to been there and basically come back to your vomit. Like that was heavy. That was really heavy, because it's just like, we, without airing all my dirty laundry, I return to many vomits quite often, and it's just like, it's better if I had not known better.
But it ties. Does
know.
this tie in a bit to the fig tree?
It does.
No.
To me, it does. Yeah.
Yeah, because
No.
because he's describing everything as you move up the verse, and it starts in verse 1 where he talks about, but there were also false prophets. So he's talking about people that are going out and misrepresenting who they are, or misrepresenting who God is, right? And by that, by their words, they're misrepresenting in their actions, and it goes and starts describing throughout the chapter what they were doing, right? And then it comes down, and talks about the consequences.
Verse 19. They promise freedom, leaves, but they themselves are slaves to sin and corruption, no
Yeah.
fruit.
That's me though, but yeah.
I'm wondering if this is a, well, now that you put it in context, it undermines my question. But when I first read it, it kind of made the statement of, you can't be once saved, always saved. This to me undermined that. But if they weren't saved in the first place, then which then goes back to what is being saved.
I was gonna say.
Well, that's in the once saved always saved theory is all. It goes back to what you were saying. Like the theory is, even if people thought you were saved, if you still act crazy, then obviously you weren't saved. So you were never saved.
But then,
which kind of puts holes, which is like, So yeah, we might have thought you were saved, and you might have been saved, and everybody in the world might have thought you were saved, but by your actions now, obviously you weren't saved.
So what are you saying saved is?
It also negates the need for God if you're always saved.
True.
No.
Oh,
once saved means you can never lose your salvation.
You never lose your salvation.
Once you accept Christ and give yourself to Him, and you've accepted His salvation, it's a permanent state that you stay in.
What it does,
regardless of what you do.
It removes everything else, like repentance. It removes all that.
But that still means
that's what that idea is.
Once saved is like once forgiven, always forgiven too.
Right, but isn't the once saved always saved idea? Because right now we're working, and Christ is working in us to fulfill His work.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were to be, let's say we're saved now, like, hey, I'm good. Even tomorrow I'm going to be good. You can go party, you can do all these things. Like, yeah, I'm still good.
Don't need God.
Right, it kind of cut him out of the picture because in your mind you're still saved as you were the day before while you're doing the wrong.
But what I'm saying is the theory, but what the theory behind, I keep saying theory, but behind once saved, always saved is that if you are actually saved, you would not want to go and party. You would not want to do that. So if you're doing that, you were never saved in the first place. So that's what the thought behind it is. That's why once saved, always saved works. Either way.
No, but there's some churches out there that
Is
baptize their children, not christen them, baptize their children as if they're saved. And that's their saving.
I don't want us to go down
and
I'm
not looking down that
road.
What I'm saying,
I want to
just
stay in these verses.
Within these verses, though, I don't believe this is a matter of I was never saved here. I think it reminded me of Peter walking on water when he realized that he was actually walking on water rather than looking at Jesus and started to sink. So it's like here, in my opinion, you're no longer focusing on the fact that you need to get closer and closer to God. You now have gotten to a comfort level, and it's about you. So I've returned back.
But they didn't even do, like, if you read the words, like their sentences, like they will secretly introduce destructive heresies, which shows intent, which shows that there's nothing that it's not like they ended up there. They were conniving.
Even when you sin, you're not. Sin is intentional.
Many will follow the depraved conduct and will bring.
Keep in mind, as Ken Rick's pointing out, these are false teachers. The whole description is of false teachers.
Does a false teacher believe they're false?
Some of them knowingly.
I don't know, but
no, they don't believe.
This isn't just the general person who's sitting and falling and sitting and falling.
No, I'm not. And what I'm saying is, as a false teacher,
you're looking for personal gain,
right?
And so you are leading people astray for your personal gain.
the tree.
And yes, you told me to leave the tree alone, but I'm good.
Yeah.
So,
everything ties into the tree.
Y'all
come back to the tree.
But when you are a false teacher, and it's saying on purpose, you're purposely deceiving people. It is because you're going to have gain. So we're not going to compare two people, but a general example would be, I am teaching you this because I know I can pull 500 of you over here, and we will study together, we will read together, and our ministry will grow together, and I'll just keep 20% of it, the finances for myself, and I need this jet to get from here to there because I need to get there in several hours. No. What I'm saying is it happens, and it happens.
There are pastors of Hollywood watching this right now.
It happens. I'm not saying I did not say anyone. I'm saying when people do things, and we know that certain people do things for personal gain, and that's what it's for. So if we're not talking about pastors, let's say even the little old lady who convinces you to come over her house because she's lonely, but you should not be there. You should be somewhere else doing ministry. but because she wants you
Not
there.
that ministry.
Oh, brother.
No, but that's what you're saying though.
I'm saying it can be from the smallest thing to the largest things. We know that there are people whose intention is to deceive others for their own personal gain, no matter how small or large it may be. And so that's what this is talking about. This is not talking about people who keep making mistakes. Mm-hmm. If I tell you Jesus is coming, and I remember there was a couple who they were a little mixed
15.
up. They were a little mixed up in their teachings, and so someone pulled them aside and said, "Listen, come, let me tell you something, because you kind of messed it up a little bit, but we know your heart, and the Lord wants you to continue in ministry, but you need a little bit more teaching.
It's not your season.
And so we're going to pull you in. We're going to correct some of the things that you did not understand, and we're going to bring the understanding to you. So now you go back out and continue teaching for the Lord."
Verse 15, they have wandered off the right road and followed the steps of Balaam, son of Peor, who loved to earn money by doing wrong. They delight in deception, even as they eat with you in their fellowship meals. They commit adultery with their eyes, and desire for sin is never satisfied. They lure unstable people into sin.
Regular people do that too, not just false teachers.
And they are well trained in greed. So yes,
they're wells without water, trees without leaves.
It was very descriptive of a particular.
So based on that reading, I have a question then. Pastors always say I've heard pastors say it's easier to be saved than to not be saved.
That's so not true.
That's what I got from this too. That's not
it's
true.
So hard.
Say that again.
In this world,
I've heard pastors say that it's easier to be saved than to not be saved.
Well, it's very difficult.
I think it is easier if you are who they're talking to. They're talking to someone who wants to be saved. You understand?
No.
No. You're talking to someone who wants.
You're talking to someone to be saved.
Even for the person who wants to be saved,
no,
I'm still not convinced.
No,
it's easier.
because when you want to be saved, your first and foremost is you're seeking a relationship with God. You're seeking the kingdom of heaven first. Mm-mm. So when you really want to be saved, you're not seeking money first.
Okay.
You are money conscious. You are conscious of all of these things. Because you're saying, it's so much harder, and yet at the same time, it depends on who it is. Because even Jesus says it's harder for a wealthy man easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter the kingdom.
Hold on. Now Luke 9:23 says.
Luke 9:23.
If any of you wants to be my follower, you must turn from your selfish ways or deny yourself, take up your cross daily and follow me. Considering that in the day or the night leading up to the time that he had to actually do this, he was under so much stress that his blood vessels burst on the top of his head and he sweated blood. It cannot be easy.
Remember, the Bible says we were born in sin and shaped in iniquity. It is in our very nature to not be saved. It's in our DNA to be not. It's not negating that when we become new creatures, our DNA begins to be changed. So maybe, I don't know if it's the longer we are saved or the more we get into salvation.
But at
because
we use the word like if all through, especially the New Testament, you hear the word self all the way through, and that's exactly like we make it a little lighter, but that's it. Like the first thing you want to do, like you talked about the shaping of iniquity, like the only thing you want to do is take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. That's it.
But not only that, the verse you just read has a key word: daily.
Mm-hmm.
If it were easy, it wouldn't be daily at all.
It wouldn't be something that you're good at. You may not necessarily practice it every day.
Let's take exercise. Go ahead.
I think it's easy.
Do you think so?
And here's why.
All right then.
There is a prescription, a manual for how to be saved or Christ. But destruction, there isn't any, because our natural inclination is to sin and do all these things, right? Evil continually. But with being saved is you believe, you get baptized.
And you haven't even started yet.
But here's the thing, why it's easy. Because you're not alone. When you're doing your wrongs or in sin, you're essentially alone and you're influenced by other...
Go to 1 Peter 4. 1 Peter 4
right.
talks about, and it talks about living for God. And the first sentence is talking about suffering. Like, living for God. Therefore, since Christ suffered in his body, arm yourselves with also the same attitude, because whoever suffers in the body is done with sin. Like, you're going to suffer. No one enjoys that. It's not enjoyable. You talk about tribulation. You talk about, like, all that kind of stuff. There's nothing fun. It's easier not to do that.
It's easier to be fat than it is to be fit.
Yes.
Absolutely.
that was a good analogy.
It's easier to be fat than it is to be fit.
Yes.
But
there's also the verse, man, it is
I don't think I'm explaining my thoughts right. Let me gather some more and I'll get back to you guys.
And that's what I'm saying is then the reason why it's challenging to argue the point is because the standpoint that I'm taking is when you're talking to someone who wants to be saved. When you're talking to someone who wants to be saved, it is not as deep.
I do the things,
and that's the thing. I do the things but Jesus' grace covers all that, and that's what I'm saying.
No one's saying that doesn't exist. But it still is hard.
So my thing is, it is harder.
It's harder to stay saved. How about that?
Right. That's
It's easy to be saved. It's harder to stay saved.
Well, easy to be saved. You weren't even.
Because when you have the promises,
you didn't even do anything.
Heaven
to get saved.
That's an easy decision. That's a win-win.
And I think that's where I was going with my quasi-explanation.
Wait, I don't even... You're saying it's easier to, like, when I'm saying get saved, I'm assuming, like, make the decision to be...
To me, that's
easier to do that?
To get there than to stay there.
Actually, no.
No. That's not saved. That's
not. Yeah,
that's growing. That's growing in your knowledge. Because first you have to get the knowledge.
We just talked about it. Knowledge, faith.
That's what I'm saying. Go ahead.
In Luke chapter 14.
So Luke 14.
In verse, starting with 25, Jesus is speaking about the cost of being a disciple.
Luke 14,
and
what?
20, starting with 25, but in 28 he goes, but don't begin until you count the cost. Like, it is not easy. You have to consider seriously what I'm asking you to do and how much this is going to go against everything you are made to be.
Self.
Before you say you're just going to follow me. Yeah, sure. Those people there wanted to be saved. They were like, Jesus, what? Let me come with you. And he's like, whoa. I don't think you understand what you're signing up for. Mm-hmm. Okay. This is not easy. This will never be easy. So count it first. Understand what I'm asking you to do and what you're signing yourself up for before you're just like, all right, come on. I'm going to drop everything and come.
And truthfully, if you're not willing to consider to take on these tasks, it's better that you didn't come. Is what he's saying.
The other one was saying, right, which is what the other verse was saying earlier.
So it isn't easy to I wake up in the morning and I want to sin. Who said it? The things I shouldn't do, I do.
Your boy you don't like.
Yeah, Pop. The one time makes sense.
Yeah, that's an opinion. That was an opinion.
I wake up wanting to sin. I wake up wanting to sin. I want to be a glutton. I want to eat everything. I want to do everything. I just want to do it.
And as you read,
you go against yourself to be a Christian.
And as you read, one of the things that hit me this week, it still ties in all this, was 2 Peter 3, which talks about the day of the Lord. And I realized, like, every time, and it's not sacrilegious, but when people like, I'm coming, I'll get there, I'm gonna come soon. And I'm like yours soon or like Jesus soon? Because Jesus soon's a long time. Like, Jesus been coming soon for a very, very long time.
And people had the flood thoughts
and
too.
People like we're reading stuff what Peter wrote 2,000 years ago. These last days, how many last days is it? How long are the last days?
Right.
And if these are the last, how long were the middle and the beginning? Like, that's a long time. But as I was reading, there's certain things that kind of stuck out to me, and 20 seconds.
90
seconds.
seconds.
Yeah.
But it says in verse 8, 2 Peter 3 verse 8, but not forget this one thing, dear friends, with the Lord a day is like 1,000 years.
I was about to say that.
And so Peter Peter in the earlier is like he's telling people, I'm just reminding you. He said that several times in 1 Peter. And again, I'm just reminding you of these things. So I was reading and I get to this part and it's like, it kind of rings in my ear. I'm just reminding you. By the watchers of the world, there were some other things I said, but the day is like a day is like 1,000 years. And then the one part is that instead, the Lord is not slow in keeping his promise, as some understand slowness. Instead, he is patient with you, not wanting anyone to perish, but everyone to come to repentance. And I think it goes down a little, don't mistake God's patience. Understand God's patience as salvation. And for me, that chill with the he's not coming soon, type stuff. Like, understand that he's, his patience is giving you time to get ready. So don't be lax with it. Don't, dismiss it. Don't be so fickle with what he's giving you. He's saying that you need more time. Yeah. So it kind of changed my perspective.
And as we learned this week, this soon could be tomorrow for you.
This soon can be
or tonight.
Takeaways, very quick.
That was mine.
Okay.
Wait, she's just going around.
I want to
Time
be
her
a
out
maple
anyway.
tree.
But
No, well, that's it. That's it for us tonight.
Syrup.
Yeah, don't perpetrate. That's my takeaway.
Don't perpetrate.
I said I'm a maple tree. I'm not a fig tree.
She's
You're
a maple
what?
tree.
Maple tree?
Yeah.
We need to go that in the
I'm glad you wouldn't need no pancakes.
I don't.
You're a hater.
yeah,
I'll let Jesus determine what season it is.
Okay. All right.
You said what? Did you say what?
She's gonna let Jesus determine what season it is.
For me too.
I will let Jesus.
responsible for your own salvation, son.
Will you let Jesus determine my season too, and not judge me?
It's hard for you to be saved.
And with that, we
Jesus has not.
Continue drinking up, guys. Continue studying the Word. It is relevant to your everyday life, and we're just trying to share that excitement with you. Peace and here, Greece. Till next time.
Damn, we didn't talk about Daniel.
We talk about the mini afterglow.
You're like water for the thirsty. I drink. You're like water for the thirsty.